Today, I'm going to show you how to get a good deal in this Sacramento real estate market. Hey everybody, welcome to Sacramento's Real Estate Channel, where we talk everything there is to know about the brand new builds and of course, what there is to do here in Sacramento. If you've been thinking about making a move to the area, subscribe to the channel. And just so you know, we go live every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. We'll see you there. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. It is another lovely and hot Tuesday evening. As maybe you have heard, we've been in excessive heat warnings here in Sacramento. It was like 100 and almost 15 degrees yesterday. So I hope you guys enjoyed your Labor Day weekend. But this weekend, we wanted to coming out of this weekend, I should say, we wanted to bring you guys up to date on the Sacramento real estate market and show you how you can get a deal in this changing market, because there's been a huge shift in the real estate market and most people aren't prepared for it or don't even know really how to handle it in the market. So I actually have a special guest, another real estate mogul here in the Sacramento real estate market. I have my good friend, Mark McDonough, hopping on with me today. Mark, how are you?
Good. Thanks for bringing me on, man. You know, I've got the 35th ranked real estate channel in Sacramento, so I appreciate I appreciate the push, Sam. How you doing, man?
Absolutely. So if you guys don't know, Mark has a Sacramento real estate channel. You may have seen some of his stuff. It's got a great channel with great content. So if you guys ever want to see some more videos or get up to date on Sacramento's channel, Sacramento's real estate market, I should say, check out his channel. If you just type in Sacramento real estate, I'm sure you'll find it there somewhere at the bottom of the feed. Just kidding. Me and Mark are good friends. We've actually helped each other a lot, worked with a lot of mutual clients as well. So today I wanted to talk about really the major shift in the Sacramento real estate market. I'm sure we've all been feeling it, all been seeing it. There's been a lot of news headlines about it, but really I wanted to bring on Mark because we both do quite a bit of transactions in the area. We kind of have a pulse on the market. And Mark is also very involved into the new builds all over Sacramento. So we'll get into that later in the show. And if you guys have questions or anything that kind of comes up to mind, feel free to drop it in the comments. We'll try to answer it in this show as well. So I saw this stat come out recently, Mark, and it says home sales have slumped majorly in the last few months here. It's talking about the Sacramento region. So that's like Yolo County, Placer County, Sacramento County, El Dorado County, all combined. And it was saying that there's a huge slump, but Sac County in particular had about 25% less homes sold from May to August compared to 2021. So about a 25% decrease in the amount of home sales. Have you been feeling that? Have you been seeing that personally? What's your pulse on the market with that?
Yeah, I think May it was still kind of a crazy market. June, buyers were kind of, I think they're going to Disneyland. They just didn't want to buy. It's like it's been kind of like almost like there's been always something kind of wrong. Something just like there's one ingredient missing to make it a fantastic market. Like right now, we got buyers that want to buy. There's just not a lot of inventory on the market. I mean, there's like 3 listings that pop up. Nothing. So it's like it's tough, you know. And before then it was still one of those things where interest rates were high, so people were getting used to it. Buyers felt beat up too, and so they're thinking, do we go to Disneyland or do we try our luck in waiving appraisal contingencies, going $1 million over list price and everything too. So it's just been one thing after the other. But, right now our biggest thing is like there's not a whole lot of new listings popping on the market. There's a lot of bloat, just not a whole lot of new stuff,
Right. And so let's hop into that. When you're saying bloat, I think that's very interesting that you're using that word to describe it. But basically, not too many new homes are hitting the market, not too many new listings, but it's a lot of the stuff in the last month, 2-3 months that's kind of boiled in. And so now we have about, I think for the Sacramento region, it's 78% more homes compared to last year. So that's a huge increase. There's a lot more homes to choose from, but it's not necessarily like this last month that there was a lot of new stuff coming to the market, right?
Yeah. And when I say bloat, I just mean like you got sellers who are saying, you know what, let's throw it up there. My buddy Bob got like $1 million 6 months ago, so I want my house is better. Sam, my house is better. It's got quartz countertops, so I'm going for $1.05 million. So you got a lot of listings like that. I think people are kind of like, buyers are really savvy. So that if people switch around pictures or descriptions or take it off the MLS for like a week or throw it back on, I think people see this stuff. And so like, I don't know, just for me, I look at this and I just see a lot of like bloat, a lot of like things that are, overpriced. And people are like, well, what do you mean overpriced? I'm like, well, look, here's the thing. If a house isn't selling, it's overpriced. A house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And if it's not moving, it's overpriced. I'm sorry. It's just this kind of, just kind of how it is,
No, yeah, and we've seen a lot of that the last few months. Sellers are still kind of pushing for those prices of earlier this year or even last year. We've talked about it a lot on the show. And so even now, I mean, I have multiple listings where it's like always the conversation is they're pushing for that top comparable home that they saw, what we would call a comp for short, but basically this is a good way of seeing what sold in the area to see what your home could sell for, essentially. And a lot of people just pick that highest price and they think that their home is better, and that's kind of the thought about it. But what really translates in the market is affordability, right? Because those same buyers that could buy in that neighborhood 8 months ago can no longer buy in that neighborhood because their payment essentially jumped probably like $300 to $500 or more a month just based on the change in the interest rate. So that's a huge difference for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different market, and it's hard for people to kind of get there through their heads as far as like, listing prices. And buyers also, they're still thinking that, they're seeing all these listings. They're like, oh my God, look how many active listings there are in the market. But if you look on Friday, which is usually the day things pop up that's new, there's just not a lot. There's stuff that you've seen, right? You've seen all of the listings, you've seen like 9 advertised listings. So you're scrolling, you're like, oh, look at all the listings in Sacramento. And you're like, seen it. Seen it. Oh, okay. Price reduction. Still not interested. Go. And then that one house that pops up, you're like, okay, let's go take a look at it. And you're just not sure if it's priced right. So, I think that right now that's where we're at right now, which is interesting.
Yeah. I will say though, you did hint on something when the price reduction, like if a home has been on the market, but now it's got that price reduction, if it brings back that interest, I think for some people it will. Because they might feel like they're getting some sort of deal. They might feel like the seller's a little bit more negotiable now. I mean, personally, that's what happened for me this weekend. We just got a home in a contract. I was telling you right before this, Labor Day, getting into contract Labor Day morning. So that was cool. But really what drew them to the house and what really put it into their price range was that price reduction. And that seller did a huge price reduction after only 2 weeks on the market. It was one of those things where an investor had actually a ton of properties and they were just trying to offload. So they did quite a big price reduction, more than I would have done personally. But that's what got my buyers interested in the game. They went, they saw it, and in a few days, we had some negotiations back and forth. Now we got them a home in contract. So they're excited. I think that those price reductions may bring a few people back. But yeah, you're right. Not too many new listings. Actually, I was just looking at the trends for today. So August trends have not came out yet. So month of August has closed, but it takes a little bit longer. For some reason, MLS always takes forever to get the new fresh data out. But as of the previous month, only about 2,720 homes hit the market for the overall Sacramento region, whereas typically in previous months, we were still having like over 3,000 hit the market. So a lot less new listings hitting the market, but the stuff that's been there, it's kind of, again, sitting, compiling, maybe doing price reductions. And so it's cooling the market, definitely. But what do you think about buyers right now coming out into the market? And do you feel like they have opportunity to get a deal right now in this market?
Yeah. Like I tell people this, the worst thing in this market is falling in love with a house. That's going to make you do crazy things. You're going to overpay. You're going to just go nuts. You're going to get into a bidding war, and you're almost going to ask yourself, is this a seller's market still? Which, technically kind of is for what we're going through. But I think for a buyer right now, find a house you like, right? Or find 3 or 4 of them and just sit on it, wait on it. Just understand that it might go, and it might be something that might go. But like the idea is just know the square footage you want, the floor plan you want, the area you want, location you want, all that kind of stuff, right? And just kind of sit on maybe 3 or 4 houses and just see how they do. I don't think this is I think this is a market that a lot of people have said, do you think prices will get colder during the end of the year? I mean, historically, it always does. So for me, I know for me, a lot of the people I'm working with are just waiting. They're just waiting for it to feel right, for something to come along that makes them go, you know what? I'm going to jump in. But I
Yeah,
think you're seeing buyers that are a lot more patient right now. They're patient.
definitely.
They're just going to jump on anything. And I think it's going to make sellers frustrated. And I think that it might pay off in the long run. Maybe. I mean, you never know with this market too,
Yeah.
but I think buyers can get a great deal, follow the reductions, and then just, in Sacramento, we're all track home pretty much. So if you see something that's like 1933 square feet in a quarter mile kind of radius, you see something else coming up 1933 square feet, it's kind of probably going to be the same kind of floor plan. So just keep an eye out for like what you're looking for exactly. And then just wait, and if one comes up, I mean, I've seen sometimes a couple that are sitting on the market, and then I have clients that are just waiting for that reduction to happen. And I'm telling them exactly where I think the price is going to be at. And the second they reduce, you go lower, and you get a deal. Why do you go lower when it just reduces? Because you're almost guaranteed that there are no offers on the table. The seller and the buyer had a conversation, or the seller and their agent had a conversation that wasn't too fun. They reduced it. Seller's getting
Yeah.
anxious, and if you can go lower and make it attractive, you can get yourself a good deal, I believe, in this market, as long as you know the comps and price per
Yeah.
square footage and all that.
Yeah. You have to know pricing. But one thing I will say to be able to come in and write that offer when that reduction happens is to also be prepared. Like, what a lot of the conversations I'm having right now is with a lot of home buyers. Same thing, right? A lot of conversations like, we're going to wait, we're going to feel it out. But I think we're kind of already getting to that place where there's a lot of home buyers and even sellers as well. Okay, like getting more realistic. Okay, this is the current market we're in. We've just shifted. Things aren't necessarily going downhill like the headlines are screeching, but this is the new normalcy. We're around 5% interest rates. Okay, this is where it's at. This is just what's happening. So the people that have been around are starting to see that and kind of coming back to the market. I'm seeing a lot of that. But in order to be able to get a deal, you have to be prepared, right? I've had a lot of clients with pre-approvals that they got beginning of this year at a much different interest rate. So that's first of all. Second, people may have switched jobs, different income levels, this and that. And usually the conversation or maybe the mindset is, I'm going to wait till the perfect house comes along. And if it does, then I'll get pre-approved. But then they're like kicking themselves doing that, because that literally happened to me the other day. I was telling somebody like, hey, get up to date on your pre-approval. Let's just do it. Let's just have it. When the right house comes, you guys are going to be ready. It's like a Thursday night, like 7 p.m. They see the house. They're like, we love it. I'm like, did you do the updated pre-approval? They're like, no, we forgot. And now he was like kicking himself that night because we couldn't move as fast. If we actually moved faster on that house, I could have got them a better price because there was no other active buyers on that listing. And honestly, that was the price you pay sometimes. And I know a lot of realtors will probably be pushing like, go get pre-approved, go do some of that. We did the same thing. I know we both bought properties earlier this year. I was pre-approved like 3 to 6 months in advance before I ever even pulled the trigger on something. How about you?
Oh yeah, straight up. And I was watching the market for about 6 months to see what I wanted to pop up. For me, I was never really that worried about the interest rate. If it was going higher, I would just buy down the rate.
Right.
It just never factored in. It was more about finding the right opportunity. Like my mindset for our clients is always like their pockets. A lot of people are like, you see all these people doing these like, YouTube videos are going and they're like, oh, it's going on an upward trend. I don't believe in like this or like this. I believe in pockets of opportunity. I think when interest rates shift, I think there's a pocket of opportunity where you can make something happen, right?
Yeah.
But then the pocket disappears, and then you got to wait a little bit, and you're kind of looking at the market, and you got to reevaluate it and figure out like what time frame are you in there? Like, can you make something happen? And then it just disappears, and then all of a sudden, some new variable hits the market, right? Where it's like, okay, interest rates are high, inventory is low, inventory is back, buyers are back, summer. So for me, I'm a big believer more in pockets. You see some people like doing videos and like, it's going in a trend this way. And you can't, that's just not real estate. Real estate is so like, it changes so fast. And there's just these pockets of opportunity that you can make something happen. And so for me, I knew what I liked, and I saw a pocket of opportunity of houses in my area. And there were a lot of them when I bought too. I was like, okay, this is good. A pocket, low interest rates. and I knew that I had to jump on it. And so like I pounced on it and I got it. But it was because I saw that there was this moment, this envelope of opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I was hesitating on mine. I mean, literally, if I decided to get into contract, I had the opportunity like 3, 4 days sooner, I would have saved myself like 0.5, 0.6% because rates just jumped like this that week and it was crazy. And I was like, oh shoot, I kind of missed the mark. And I was like, all right, let's move forward before they go even higher. So that happens. But before we continue too far, I know we had a comment up earlier from Priscilla. I know she was waiting. I see a few guys comments coming in. If you guys have questions or anything that we can answer for you, drop it in the comments below, drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And if we miss it on this one, I'll bring it up on the live show for next week. But she wrote, are prices finally going down? What do you think, Mark?
Well, I think with all the reductions on the market, with all the bloat on the market, they got to go down eventually. I mean, you're going to run into sellers who are kind of like, you know what, I don't have to sell. In my opinion, that's only temporary. They don't have to sell maybe for a month, for 2 months, for 3 months, but then all of a sudden, like maintenance, utilities, property tax, and all this stuff, like eventually you have to sell. And, I've worked with people who've like, we're getting in contract and they're like, look, my sellers just want to get this property off the books. So I do think that we're going to see some reductions happen, a lot of price reductions happen. And I think prices are going to start to probably, like, here's what I look at, right? Prior to COVID, if you look at the history of areas, right? Like Land Park, East Sacramento, maybe certain areas of Grand Bay, they've historically been relatively strong, right? They've always, even during COVID, like Folsom, exactly the same way. So I think historically, if you look at the areas that have always been strong, don't expect too many reductions there. Don't expect for, in a month's time for you to be able to get like a nice 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Folsom for 700. Maybe in Citrus Heights, yeah. Maybe in Orangevale, yeah. Maybe in like some of the areas now that aren't seeing as much traffic because now people can actually jump into other areas that, like Antelope, for example. I have a listing in Antelope and it's dead. Not because it's not a great house, is because a lot of the traffic going to Antelope were people that were looking in Roseville, but Roseville was like, waive the appraisal contingency, there's like 15 offers and people kind of give up on that.
Yeah.
And now they're like, well, maybe I'll consider Roseville now a little bit more. And all of a sudden these other areas that maybe aren't as well known are getting a little colder. So I think you can get deals there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And prices I think will drop there as well.
Yeah. And we've even seen that like on the stats, because for the Sacramento region, we had a peak of 625K on, I think we just got some sort of public health and safety notice. I don't know if you guys saw that beep right there. But we had a median price of 625 peak at this earlier this year. And then now, as of last month, we're at 596,000 on the median price. So we've definitely already seen some sort of dip. And that's, of course, in accordance to higher interest rates, now more inventory kind of stacking up. And of course, 50% of all listings did a price reduction in the last month or two. So that's huge numbers. I don't think it's necessarily a full-on downward trend yet. I don't think we have enough time of data showing that, but I think prices are finally just adjusting to that, And I'm not seeing like certain neighborhoods, like you mentioned, Land Park, certain areas that have this really appeal to them. I feel like they've kind of maintained through this, despite the rates. It's taken a little bit longer to sell some homes, especially in the higher end, but a lot of those homes have still retained their pricing, essentially.
Well, I think even in like in El Dorado Hills, Serrano is still tough nut to crack, but around it, like Blackstone, it's a lot easier.
Right.
Like, other areas around their promontory, it's easier to jump into now than it was like before. So you're looking at the historic areas that like have had the most demand, just retain it. Right. And the other areas that maybe are just a little bit like, like I said, like we had such an abundance of buyers come in that areas like Citrus, Rancho, Fair Oaks, although Fair Oaks has always been somewhat popular, like Orangevale, like these other areas that people like in the Bay Area, like the idea is someone from the Bay Area is like, I like Folsom. I got $1 million. I want to spend this. They go to Folsom, they get into this huge bidding war and they're like, well, what else is kind of like Folsom? Well, the part of Folsom or part of Orangevale that's near Folsom is kind of like Folsom, why don't we go take a look at it? Oh, I love that area. We're not
Yeah.
having as many people do that anymore, like swing into other areas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for you, I mean, when you show someone like if someone's saying to you, hey, Sam, I want Folsom, you can pretty much make it happen now.
Yeah.
7 months ago, 8 months ago, you're kind of like, okay, Folsom and what else? You know what I mean? Like,
Give me your
what
top
else do you want?
3, right?
Totally. Come on, give me your top 3 here because it's
Yeah.
still hard. Now
Yeah.
it's like Folsom, well, here's a pricing and oh, we're good with that. You can make it
Yep.
work. So, we're not seeing a lot of people have their like maybe second choice, third choice, fourth choice. It's usually like their primary and that's where they're sticking to. And because areas like Folsom for easily number 1 and other areas in Sacramento are popular with other people who are moving in, those areas are getting even more attention now. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm definitely feeling like the pace pick up a little bit, right? Even though things have cooled off, it's not the same push on the market, but it's also one of those things like it's so weird. Like even this contract that I mentioned late Labor Day, they did a price reduction. There was no interest. We're the ones I'm telling them we're going to write an offer. We're getting the offer ready. We're getting the pre-approval ready, going through all that. Still no other interest on the property. As we're going through negotiations back and forth with the seller, we were pushing for a closing cost credit. They were going to accept it. And boom, the morning of, the neighbor across the street wants to write an offer on the house. I'm like, the house has been on the market for over 2 weeks. He didn't say anything. Even the agent was surprised. She was like, man, I've been trying to negotiate this property left and right. And all of a sudden, here's this full price offer, clean terms, and now we're competing against them out of nowhere, right? And it's one of those markets where it's like, okay, we got to slow down, but it's really finding the right buyer for that property, and boom, like people are interested. So it's very interesting to see that. And
I got into that. Yeah.
I
No,
wouldn't come with this like mindset of like, okay, I'm just gonna like undercut, get a deal. This is the time to do it. I think that you kind of just have to pick and choose your battle. Like if you really love the house, I wouldn't probably, and you need to move, and this is like something you want to move forward on. I wouldn't be really wheeling and dealing too hard, because if that happens, another offer comes in and you could be out of the pocket on that one,
No, yeah. I mean, if you're the first one in, like try to nail it down and call it a day. But I will say this market, and this is what I'm seeing also, is the fact that like houses that people are rating like a 7 or 8, like they look at it, they're like, okay, I like the house. It has, there's other things I'm not in love with the house, but I like it. I think this can work for us, but we want to look at other stuff. But we want to find that one amazing house that's out there. And because inventory is so low, those 7 and 8 houses become 10 houses. They come back around, but there's a bunch of people that are in that same kind of like circle of like, we couldn't find anything else. So that one house in Folsom that's available now is becoming a 10 because there's nothing else out there. And everyone's like, you know what? I want to buy right now. Interest rates are getting higher. And I've been dying to buy for like 8 months. And now I heard is my time. I'm buying a house. I want it right now. And I want to buy a house. And maybe that was like a 7 or 8 when I first looked at it. But now that I realize there's nothing else in the area, that's a 10 now. I want it. And then there's like 3 or 4 people that have that same mentality. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, new activity, new life in some of these listings. So I've seen it firsthand. It's crazy,
Yeah. And I think if you're, if you're kind of a home buyer in our market, in any local market, really, if you're working with someone who's active and kind of keeping a pulse and seeing what's available, I think you should be able to still get a fairly good deal, just depending on the price point and the community you want to be in. But also one interesting thing and to take into consideration now too, is that there's a lot of homes also coming off the market. Okay. So there's this thing where, when you hire someone, essentially like a real estate agent, to sell your property, you give them a certain amount of days to sell that property. If they don't meet that requirement to sell that home in a certain amount of days, it goes into what's called expired, or technically comes off the market. And if you're a home buyer in this market and there was a home that's been sitting for a long time, you've kind of had your eyes on it. If you're working with someone who's active, they can actually reach out to that owner potentially and get you kind of an inside scoop or a second chance on that property, maybe even negotiate a little bit of a better deal. So that's something to keep into consideration too. There's a lot more expired homes, expired listings coming to the market. So keep that in mind as well. Now, those typically are properties that are overpriced. Maybe the condition is not all there, or honestly, the marketing or the person they hired was just not doing their job. I've seen even in the last couple of days, just, you know, I always browse listings and stuff. There's always these listings. We're talking $1 million homes, and someone has the audacity to just take iPhone 6 pictures and put it up on the market with just stuff all over the kitchen. The house is a mess. And I'm like, man, you're selling $1 million home. Like, the least you can do is spruce the place up, hire somebody to take some photos, shoot, use your iPhone, you know, 13 or whatever this is, and take some photos. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it, but I'm seeing $1 million homes just being marketed like it's nothing. Like, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, I think you got your, you know, a lot of listing agents got really lazy and complacent as far as like, you know, hey, we'll throw
100%.
something up. It'll be
Yeah.
going in 4 days. We'll go over lists. I'll brag to my clients about how I got them 30 offers and we're good to go. And so I think that, you know, this market has turned listing agents a little soft. There's like a lot of listing agents don't hustle. I mean, to do
Yeah.
stuff, you know, like our market's always been a little bit like that with listing agents. Sign in ground on the MLS, flyers, open houses, and there we go. That's it. I mean, markets like in like the Bay Area and Los Angeles, they have the events, they're giving away cars and all this kind of fun stuff. Our market is a little bit more like, hey, cross our fingers, hopefully it'll work. Broker tour, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I think our Sacramento market, now that we're getting a new influx of like people from other areas moving in here, we have to kind of step up our game a little bit.
100%.
Like, for example, for you, like you doing that, you're going to release a video on a nice $1 million property in East Sacramento. Like, why didn't the listing agent do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that kind of stuff too. Or no. Actually, you know, I'll give the listing agent props on this. Actually, sorry. I reversed my comment. I'm like, good for the listing agent that when Sam said, hey, let me do a video for the house, they said, yeah, I want you to sell the house for the client, you know? So I'll reverse that, go back and say, like, listing agents should be reaching out to people to do videos, promoting it any way they can, you know?
I think cross marketing is actually super effective. We've done that. I think we even did one of your properties. We got a ton of good feedback on that one, right? You just essentially got way more eyes on that same property, whereas most people, and we both have YouTube channels that get crazy amount of views. I mean, for what it is. And so that's already increasing the amount of people that you and exposure you have on that property. Whereas most people that list a home, a lot of agents that I know, right? I have a lot of relationships, and I know you do as well. But literally the marketing is photos, sign, maybe an open house if you can get them to do it. And then literally just putting it on the MLS and, you know, have it on like Zillow and Redfin and all that stuff, which is, by the way, automatic. So it's not really marketing.
Thank you. You got my listing on Redfin. Hey, I did what I could. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I go that extra mile.
That was like a less than 5-point marketing plan right there. So that's about it. But when you work with someone who's really active on marketing and even on social media, and of course, I know that we do a lot of online advertising as well. With all that stuff, it really does matter. And especially in a transitionary market, I think those things it's going to be like cream rising to the top. Essentially, like the listings that are going to stand out are the ones that are actually marketed and put in their best position, because now those homes, you as a seller, you're competing versus other homes in your neighborhood, essentially, and other homes in the community. So it's going to be super important. I think we're going to see that transition probably here in the next few months, even more.
Well, you know, here's the thing that's so funny is like back in the good old battle days, it's like you got a realtor who like does a listing presentation. They're like, I got this group of Bay Area buyers that I know. No one else knows them, but I do. I can bring them to the table, and you know, I got you. You don't worry. Well, I'm all that stuff. And then you look at people like you and I have these channels who basically a majority of people who tune into our channels are from the Bay Area, and so you think literally that like you say, you know, like, well, you know, like the realtor has no connection to the Bay Area, except maybe their brokerage has a few offices there. They have 0 buyers from the Bay Area that they're talking about, really. I mean, in all honesty, majority of it's just smoke and mirrors. But you got someone like Sam, who's got a YouTube channel that a majority of the people watching it are actually from the Bay Area. And you can actually go and watch his live program, see people from the Bay Area interacting with him. And you see his kind of client base being from YouTube, specifically being from other areas. And it's like, that's like proof in the pudding. But like, you know, people will kind of fall for this whole smoke and mirrors when a realtor goes there and goes, yeah, you know, I'm a Redfin agent. You know, you've seen Redfin. We're in the Bay Area. We're everywhere. So we got the line in on Bay Area buyers. When was the last time you went to the Bay Area? maybe a year ago, but no,
Right.
I do though. Seriously, I got 3 people.
Yeah.
To me, it just baffles me, that kind of stuff, So yeah, I mean, I think we definitely need to step up our game in Sacramento as far as marketing it, because
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Actually, speaking of other markets, I have my good friend Steven right there shouting out on the channel. He's actually an agent down in Orange County. So they have another animal of a market over there. And they've been going through some major shifts too, but they sell like Laguna Beach, Irvine, all that area. So their price point is a whole nother level above ours. And they have to market the heck out of those listings to get them going, especially in the multi-million-dollar price point. So I think that, yeah, like you mentioned, having these Bay Area buyers, which is the huge inflow coming into Sacramento, me and you, we get calls almost every other day, daily, from people that are thinking about the transition, moving their families out here. Really, quality of life seems to be typically the number one reason, maybe a job transfer, but a lot of people are working remotely now. So it kind of gives them the opportunity to just get a better living situation here and make their dollars go a lot further, right?
Well,
What
yeah,
are some of the areas that you're seeing most of the people that call you like go to? What are like the top 2, 3 hotspots?
Folsom, maybe like Granite Bay is a good one. El Dorado Hills. I don't know, everywhere across the board, everyone's kind of different. A lot of people will call up and say like, look, I've seen these places, but like, what can you tell me? This is what I'm looking for specifically.
Yeah.
And, I don't really, and if you've worked with me, and you probably Sam's the exact same way, I'm kind of like, okay, look, let me educate you on Sacramento first before you decide what you want, location wise, because there's so much of Sacramento, right? I mean, and the last thing I always tell clients too, I'm like, or when I talk to clients, I'm like, I don't want to be that realtor that like you see one house, we go see that house, we put in an offer, we get you that offer, and we're good to go. I want you to feel good about your decision. I want you to feel in control of
Yeah.
what you're looking at. I want you to know Rockland. I want you to know Grant Bay. I want you to know El Dorado Hills. And then let's start crossing some places off and figure out exactly what's your thing.
Mhm.
You want to make it like you want them to be 100% sure about where they're buying, what they're buying, and that they found their place. I mean, that at the end of the day is like what building a relationship is all about. It's not about like
Yeah.
the transaction. It's about taking care of someone. Right. And so
100%.
for me, directly Folsom's probably like, I've even talked to tons of realtors in the Bay Area. They have no idea any other area of Sacramento. They know Folsom. I would say
Mhm.
number 2 would probably be at this point, maybe Granite Bay. And
Yeah.
number 3, maybe like an East Sacramento or something. Those are the top
Okay.
3 that people have probably heard of something. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I would agree on the Folsom one. Folsom Ranch specifically, just because it has so many of the new development going in over there.
Oh yeah.
El Dorado Hills has been a big one too. I know me and you, we both had some clients up for Toll Brothers, Hidden Ridge and El Dorado Hills. So that one's been pretty big as far as interest wise. And I
Yeah.
think really it's because, man, for the price point, being El Dorado Hills, the views, it's going to be like that next it community, I think. So that one's been big. But yeah, Folsom Ranch, El Dorado Hills, those I kind of look as sister cities in a way. I know they're different, but the reality is when most people coming into town, if they're going towards Folsom, and we might show them a little bit of El Dorado Hills or vice versa, right? So those two, I have been getting also a lot of interest for like Roseville and Rockland. Those have always been good for me. I personally grew up in Rockland, so I know Rockland really well. But I think like Whitney Ranch and Rockland has also been coming up more and more, a lot more interest around there. And so those are kind of the communities that I'm getting hit with, and a little bit of Elk Grove here and there, but not as much lately. So those are kind of the communities that I'm seeing a lot of. But I think this actually transitions really well because I had Priscilla ask another question here. Are there any more new builds coming out in Sacramento? Has there been any new hot stuff that you've been seeing or kind of been looking at that you think is kind of going to be a good deal for some of these people in the market?
Well, one of my favorite builders, Taylor Morrison, is building another community in Folsom Ranch, and
Oh
they're going
yeah,
to be breaking ground on that. Yeah, I just saw the signs for it, and I talked to Kelly, the regional manager, last week.
nice.
So they're going to be doing that over there. Wild Hawk, I think they're going to do another one over there. I like Taylor. I think they're a good bang for your buck, and I think the
Yes.
quality of home is very, very good.
Yeah.
Toll Brothers, like Sam said, that's another good one. I would say Anatolia, Richmond American just started building over there, which is good. Lincoln has slowed down a little bit as far as their building. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've
I would
noticed more of
say,
their inventory sitting too.
yeah, it's definitely sitting. I mean, well, I mean, one of the things they did, I like all people, but like they opened up 3 brand new communities in like the West Roseville area, Winding Creek area at the
Mhm.
same time.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, was that really the smartest move to do at this
Yeah.
market? Yeah,
Well,
like
I don't think a lot of builders are communicating. Um, and there's this huge economist in the real estate market. I think her name, if I'm saying it right, is Ivy Zellman. And that's one thing she was saying is that there's, a lot of these new construction, these big builders are coming in all over the nation, and they're going to these hot spots that they know a lot of people are moving into, and there's a
yeah,
lot of buzz, but they're not communicating to see like, hey, we have this many homes that we're building in this time frame, and they're not communicating that back and forth. And so like that's when you have a situation like you just mentioned, boom, 3 new communities, a little bit much, because Winding Creek is a little bit out there. We've sold a few out there. I've actually had a lot of interest out there, but it's kind of on the further west side of Roseville. It's kind of on the pioneering front of West Roseville. And I think pricing wise, it's a good deal because of that, right?
oh yeah.
It's had some stellar pricing that I thought about even buying a property over there. I was like, shoot, I could see this place going somewhere eventually,
Yeah. But it makes you also wonder with 3 communities, will there even be more reductions? What inventory is going to be sitting? What are they going to do? I mean, 3
Right.
communities, I
Yeah.
mean, to do that, that's crazy. Hey, let me ask you a question now. Who do you think, as far as like all around Sacramento, because it's clear to see, at least for me, who are the smart builders. Some of them are just like, Jackson Pollock, right? They're like, woo, woo, let's put on communities everywhere, Sacramento, boom, 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 boom. But there's some that are very strategic. Who do you like as far as strategic wise? As far as like, you're like,
Mm.
okay, that was very, very smart. Nicely done.
That's a difficult one, but I think I don't know the builder that I wanted to bring up, so I guess I'll just say it. They're building a ton, so I don't know about strategy on this one, but I think that this works because it's in Whitney Ranch. Whitney Ranch is kind of running out of space to build. There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot of like nature preserves and stuff, and it backs up to Cataverdera, a bunch of these nice places in the rolling hills of Lincoln, essentially. So really primo location. But
Mm-hmm.
JMC came out with 3 communities, speaking of, but they're all sister communities. So, a couple hundred homes altogether. I just had a client sign out there this weekend, came in, but home pricing is starting in the, I think, low 800s up into the $1 million mark. And so they have homes even with in-law units or, homes smaller, single story, dual story, whatever you want. Some even have bigger backyards. Some even back up to the ravine and nature preserve. So they're going to be really nice lots, really nice homes. But I like that one. And I think they're positioned right because JMC is essentially, as far as I can think of, one of the last builders like building in Whitney Ranch right now. I know there's
Well,
still a few left over that were going on over there, like Tim Lewis, the Summit, but they got like, I don't know, a couple houses left, maybe 1 or 2 left, probably their models. But JMC, I mean, they're coming in fresh right now. And I think the people that get in early there are still going to get a deal for the price range that Whitney Ranch can essentially hold in that area.
well, in my opinion, here's the difference between like that community and like the Winding Creek area, right? Winding Creek, there's 3 communities out there, and you see a lot of land,
A
right?
lot.
So you're thinking, all right, there's going to be other builders coming out here. The areas can develop, but there's going to be more opportunity. The Whitney Ranch part is like, they really don't have too much land. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
could be the last time to get a new home in the Whitney Ranch area.
Yeah.
And the Whitney Ranch area with like $84 HOAs and just $1 million price
Yeah.
points up there.
Yeah.
You've got like the comps in the area to justify the purchase. You've got great schools, you got great location. But I think that the thing that's the most, I don't know, pressure attractive about it is saying like, there's not too much land. I mean, once we build this, we're done. We're good.
Mhm.
We're out. We got no
Yeah.
more land. So I think
Yeah.
Whitney Ranch, I think is JMC did very well by buying additional land up there.
Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest. So I even went to school in Whitney Ranch back in the day. I know I look old, but I went to Whitney High School actually at a time. So I know Whitney Ranch really well. Grew up in Rockland for a while. And this is one of those communities that people in Rockland want to be in. It's one of those newer up and coming communities. It's still got the luxury homes, and it's still kind of got the kind of like the middle range homes for families that just want to be in a great neighborhood. There's a ton of parks, ton of walking trails. And I would say that even though it's a little bit further up, it still has shopping nearby. You know, nothing is really too far. If you want to get to Roseville, 10, 15 minutes, not a problem. And you could take the back roads essentially to a lot of different areas and cities nearby. So I think it's one of those communities that is going to be a hot zone. And I think they did really well on that development.
Well, you saw the video I did out there, right?
Yeah. With Jacqueline?
So, yeah, Jacqueline, a realtor out there, a really nice lady too. But the thing with her is that being real estate, like Whitney Ranch might be a little, you kind of have to focus in on the Whitney Ranch area and Whitney Oaks area, because it's a little bit of a drive. You know what I mean? Maybe you can do Lincoln, a little bit of 12 Bridges, but you're going to be a little far away from stuff, right? So I know for her, one of the things for her business is she's like, I'm going to just do Whitney Ranch. It's going to be where I'm going to go. So as far as living, if you work from home, or if you're like, you know, that can be your thing. The only thing for me, the only part of Whitney Ranch that I don't like myself is the fact that it just is a little far out there. You know what I mean? For me, like, I mean, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's gorgeous. You drive up there. They have these little alcoves where you can or not alcoves, areas where you can sit and look at everything too. But for me, it was one of the reasons why I steered away from Serrano as well too, is because I'm like, man, I love it. I love the idea of driving up here and relaxing here. But I mean, I live in my car. So the idea of taking, I mean, it's a drive. It's a drive to get up there,
100%.
you know? So that was the big thing for me.
For the commuters, it'll be probably a little more difficult. But I think once you kind of live there, it's lifestyle. I mean, everything is major shopping and all that's kind of near you. But if you're someone like us that's can be on two opposite ends of Sacramento, just from morning till probably late morning or afternoon, you know, and then back again, that's very normal. Then it's difficult, but I personally really enjoy it out there, and I think it's a good choice. And I'm glad you mentioned Lincoln, because I think that's a great area tucked next to it that most people don't pay attention to, especially how we were kind of mentioning what are the top areas that people mention. If they're mentioning Rockland, they don't really know or hear about Lincoln, but Lincoln is a little gem. I mean, there's still very nice luxury homes, golf course views, rolling hills, the foothills there. I mean, really nice stuff out there. Beautiful homes. You could still get semi-custom and custom homes there as well. So I think that's a great location if Rockland ends up not being the one for you. Real quick.
For your buck, right?
Yeah, exactly. And most people don't know that. You know, and so it's been great. I had a couple too, amazing couple. We became friends throughout the process. They moved in from Texas. Initially, they only wanted Rockland. He was hard set on Rockland, Whitney Ranch. He said, okay, no problem. We showed all the Whitney Ranch, all the new builds, this and that. And I'm like, look, I know you only got a day or so left here in California. Let me just show you guys. And it was like that weekend, it was just raining, storming. It was terrible weather to be showing houses, but they said, okay. Took them up to Lincoln, and they fell in love with it. And then like just a short while later, they end up getting a contract on a home with the view of Lincoln overlooking Whitney Ranch, and they loved it. And they're still happy. I mean, it's going to be great. So they're enjoying it. Really quick, I know we kind of only got a few minutes left here, but someone did bring up Elk Grove. Dumpster Fire. Love that name. Dumpster Fire. That's great. Elk Grove. Any new communities in Elk Grove that you can think of that you think are a hot spot?
I was actually invited over to Meritage in Elk Grove, and they're building a new community out there too. And,
actually, yes. Their rep just messaged me a DM on Instagram as well. We should head over there together.
I told her, I'm like, hey, this lesser known YouTuber, Sam, you might want to make him feel like popular.
Let's go together. We'll make some videos out. It'll be fun.
Well, here's the thing about Elk Grove too. It's been a little like cold as far as building, you know, I mean,
not as much action. One community out there, if you guys are looking bang for your buck, I mean, seriously, I've thought about, you know, maybe just buying one and selling it to somebody, but mid 500s, maybe 550, 575. You can get a home by KB Homes out there in Elk Grove right now. We've sent it to a few of our clients, people kind of transitioning, wanting a home. You know, usually people if they want something that lower price point, it's harder to find. You know, there is an HOA in some Melrose, but I think for that price point, brand new, like you can't beat it. That's kind of hard. Everything else in Elk Grove is a whole nother step up in price point, right? And I'm sure you've seen that, Mark, especially with the brand new stuff.
Well, Elk Grove, that's the thing that people don't get. Everyone's always like focused, oh, Elk Grove's so popular and so competitive because it's closer to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
No, it's not really that. It's just that when you have a mix of like schools, location, and all that stuff, you know, you're competing with places like Folsom and Rockland and, you know, that are a higher price point. So realistically, you can go into Elk Grove and get a 3 and 2 for under $500,000. I mean, it'll be a little dated. It might be a little smaller, but you can do that. Folsom, you can't. Rockland, you can't. Grant Bay, you can. In a lot of areas, you can't. So it's an affordable place where you can you won't sacrifice a lot for schools and all this stuff. I mean, it's a good like all around place. Not to mention one thing that no one really focuses on. I don't know if there's a better place in like the Sacramento area for food. The food in Elk Grove is phenomenal. You know, love the food over there. You know, that's why
we should do good food Fridays where we just do videos on like all the best places to eat in Sacramento.
I was actually thinking about bringing like some food, and I'm like, no one wants to watch you eat. No one wants to watch it. It's not going to work. So,
hey, I have a chicken sandwich one. You guys need to watch that in my older videos. So some fried chicken, if you're into that. That was when we were still doing different style, but it was fun. Real quick. Okay. Shotgun. If you're going to buy a house in a year or two, what area would you look into?
Well, okay, before I answer that, guys, hit the like button, comment for Sam, give him a like. And if you have a comment or if you have any ideas for him to do videos, I know it's not my channel session, but
come on, man, promote it. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So 2 years, right? Where'd you look into? Okay. We got to talk price points here because price points are a huge one.
Yeah.
If you're talking about maybe below fives, I like Natomas. Because the Arco Arena, I did a video, it just went down, you know, so they're going to be building some stuff over there. I like under 500. I'd look for like, if you can do it, like Natomas, Oak Park, West Sacramento. I like those areas. Okay. I think if you're going like 5 to 6s to 7s, maybe like Tahoe Parkish, the Pocket. I like those areas. If you're going like 6s to maybe 550s to maybe like 750 ish. Now I'm probably like 7. Anatolia. I like Anatolia for that. I think it's a great big bang for your buck.
Same.
If you're looking for like the higher price points, and you're thinking like over $1 million, maybe I would say like Serrano. If you can get one of the communities when you're going up there, Serrano, like name brand, it's like a Louis Vuitton purse. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. If you say Serrano, they love you. So I think that. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think I agree with you on the over $1 million price point. I'd be either Serrano. But again, I always tell people, hey, are you a Highway 50 person or a Highway 80 person? Because you just split, and based on which highway you prefer, what your kind of travel route is going to help you determine kind of where to veer. Because I think all over Sacramento, there's definitely some good pockets. But over $1 million, I'm thinking Casa Verdera, Lincoln Hills, potentially Whitney Ranch. I do like even up there, if you want to go further into the foothills, I like country property. So I like Loomis, Newcastle. If we're going $1 million and over, you can get views, acreage, still a nice house. There's a lot of custom houses being built, but those go up higher in price. If we're thinking something like 700,000-800,000. I really like Folsom Ranch right now. I think that's going to be stellar for future valuations. It's been really a hot zone. And if we're thinking more like 600-ish thousand, I think West Roseville is going to be your best bet getting into the 6s. And as far as new construction goes, but I also like Anatolia right now. I think you mentioned the $500,000-$600,000 price point. I think Anatolia is great for that right now. And I think it's got a lot of eyes on it, because what happens is a lot of the people that eventually, we mentioned Folsom Ranch is kind of like that hot zone, Folsom, California. It's got eyes on it. The people that go there, and it might be out of their price point, they'll typically come into Rancho Cordova, or what we're referring to as Anatolia. There's a ton of new construction over there. Much better price points, still good school districts. Yes, it's not Folsom, but that ends up being a good secondary for a lot of those people. It's a lot of professionals, nurses, doctors still buying there.
Elk Grove Unified School District.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing that like Anatolia, the thing that I like about it, okay, here's the thing a lot of people don't realize that prior to KHOV and Richmond American jumping into Anatolia, who are right now basically building a lot of good inventory out there at a great price point, you had builders like Cressley, Woodside, you had builders like Premier Homes and everything out there as well too, and they're building in the 6s and the 7s, right, and 8s and everything too. So so what that means is like surrounding you in Anatolia, there's a lot of like houses that are probably like would appraise for like 7s, 8s, even $1 million. So the idea of getting in there underneath like a 6 or close to that, you're like, it's primo, like it's right there. It's great. KHOV was so smart. Richmond American was so smart for their pricing. I mean, I'd be a little annoyed if I was like, someone at like Cressley who bought like a, $800,000-$900,000 house.
Their models went for crazy over. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. But like the KHOV thing is like, in real estate, you never want to buy the most expensive house. No. By KHOV going in like that, they became a great value.
100%. I have some of my good, awesome clients. They might even be watching, but they're closing at the end of this month on one, and they're ecstatic. We're in the low 600s, brand new house. I think over 1,800 square feet. You can't beat that. No,
I mean, KHOV was good. Richmond American is doing that competitive pricing too. So if you can get those deals and you can look around you, like, and that's one of the things that people don't do when they're buying a new home a lot of times is like, you got to look in the area too. Like people are like, I'm buying West Roseville, I don't know if I'm getting a good deal. Well, check the resale stuff, check like 3 years, 3-year-old houses, see what the price per square footage is, how much stuff is moving for. That's what you're going to be comping against. So just kind of know your area and see what they're building. Like Sam was saying with JMC in Rockland, like in Whitney Ranch, it's like everything up there is over $1 million. It's like, if you buy something for 8, I mean, it just means that you're making a smart move and you're kind of hedging your bets against a bunch of $1 million homes, so
exactly. Eventually a rising tide floats all ships. So eventually, a lot of people really get stuck up on like this builder or that builder, but overall, over time, generally speaking, the prices tend to kind of all float in the same space, right? Yes, there's definitely more premier builders and name brands that stick out, and those will hold a higher value. More people would want those specific homes or pay more for those homes, right? Like Toll Brothers right now is basically one of those brands that we're seeing.
Super smart company though.
And we're starting to see them stand out, right? And that's the game, right? A lot of the conversations we have, I know me and you both, when it comes to El Dorado Hills, is, hey, do I go with Toll Brothers or Lennar? And we're just not crazy about Lennar, but I know they do a great pricing, especially right now. They're dropping their prices like crazy and doing a lot of incentives, but they can't sell their stuff. And that's why, whereas Toll Brothers on the opposite end is actually increasing their prices because they have so much demand for their community.
Well, they were super smart too. Like Toll Brothers for me is one of the most, the smartest companies out there as far as their placement of communities in the Sacramento area. Regency, it's perfect. That whole area, plus 55 active community, that thing's, you walk in there or you drive in there and there's olive trees greeting you. I mean, really awesome. Even my mom, I took her out there and she's like, I love these houses. And then there's just enough of Toll Brothers in Sacramento to make it desired. Do you know what I mean? Like if we had like Toll Brothers in every single area, it'd be like, oh man, it'd be like, but they're smart. They're like, okay, let's do a 90 lot community in El Dorado Hills next to Lennar. Let's price competitively towards a Lennar. And let's blow them away, like let's do that. So they're very strategic. And I mean, then all of a sudden the model homes are going to go and hopefully Lennar's prices will go down so that it's not competitive, because Toll Brother models, woof, man, you can't go in there and not want a house like a Toll Brothers house. It's just, I mean, how many videos did you do? How many Instagram stories and stuff did you do up there? And like,
man, I had so many responses because people are like, oh, what? There's a new community, El Dorado Hills. It's just the thing. I see someone dropped a comment here. Whitney Ranch has chances of coming down, ? What percentage drop is expected, if any? Honestly, for Whitney Ranch, based on the amount of interest we've had, I think it's one of those communities right now for Rockland. I haven't seen too many change in prices going down. Has there been price reductions? Yes. Has there been more inventory kind of sitting on the market? Yes. But I haven't really seen them get really negatively affected recently. Have you, Mark? What's your kind of pulse on that?
No, it's a supply and demand thing. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
knows that there's only a certain amount of houses that can be built there. So the demand is there. Or I mean, there's the lack of supply is there. So people feel that kind of pressure. Like when you go shopping and you go to Costco and you see the last one on the shelf and you're like, should I just buy it or should I just like wait and come back later for it? And you're like, I'm just going to grab it.
Yeah.
That's what Whitney Ranch is kind of, because there's not a lot of land in Rockland. In Rockland in general, there's not a lot of land to build. So like in Whitney Ranch, I mean, where else do you go? Like that's it. So I think a lot of people realize that, number one, if they look at all the resale up on the very, very top of Whitney Ranch, it's hard to find anything underneath $1 million. Like $84 or whatever it is for the HOA there, pool, lifestyle. It's just, I mean, it's just great. I mean, it's its own kind of like bubble,
Yeah. And if you want, actually, we recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, dropped a video on Whitney Ranch doing a review of Whitney Ranch. So check out that video. You could probably type it in Whitney Ranch or even just go on my channel. You'll probably see it, and I'll try to link it below after the show. So I think personally they're still holding prices, but if we see major drop or change, we'll let you know. But it's one of those areas that I think it's going to hold its value for a while. And last but not least, I wanted to also kind of bring up, before we kind of end it off here, that we have a new listing hitting the market this week. It's going to be in Diamond Oaks in Roseville, California. If you don't know about Diamond Oaks, it's one of the kind of older established communities, but it's pristine and prestigious because it literally is down the street from the fountains in Roseville and backs up to the Galleria Mall, and it has its own golf course within the neighborhood. So awesome area. If you guys are thinking about Diamond Oaks, this is a 2-story home, about 2,400 square feet, 4-bed, possible 5-bedroom. It's remodeled, updated, huge backyard that backs up to a green belt, and it's got a pool and spa combo. So I know that by the time I'm done with this presentation, Mark might want to write an offer on it.
There we go. It just works that way. Okay, so let me ask you something. Since we're wrapping up the video, if you had to give buyers out there one tip to get a great deal in this market, what would that one tip be?
My tip, I would, I know a lot of people say this and this and that, but it goes back to the story I shared earlier. I would make sure all my financing is up to date and my pre-approval is in motion. The second thing I would do is work with an agent who's active. I know right now it's still really common I get it a lot of times too. Like I've even had people reach out to me like, hey, I want to work with you, but my mother-in-law or my cousin is in real estate. They do it part-time, so we want to just keep it in the family. I'm like, I get that, but to be honest with you, that can be a little bit of a disservice to you, because if you're working with someone who's not necessarily in the market every day, they're not keeping up on pricing, and things have been changing so drastically lately. I think negotiation right now is going to be a huge factor in you getting a good deal. And especially right now when sellers are actually doing price reductions and are actually negotiating and giving closing costs. I think right now it's really important to work with someone who's going to really like fight in your corner and who's doing it actively. I like the analogy you make. It's like, if you go to the gym just once a week, you're not really getting your muscles. It's just, you're kind of doing it. But if you're going every day, you're fit, you're in shape, and you're rocking and rolling. It's the same thing of working in real estate or any other business or profession you're in.
Yeah.
When you get out of it or you're just doing it part-time, how can you really be at the top of your game?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. If I had to give one tip for buyers right now, what I would probably say is follow the reductions. Once they reduce, go low.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to throw in offers. Don't fall in love in this market. This is more of a, hey, I like that house. It works. Anything inside cosmetically can be done. I got contractors left and right that can make your house look just like Restoration Hardware. So
Yep.
Understand this, guys. Like, follow the reductions. And if you see something that, is too good to be true, it might not be. So like I said, like we've gotten people into contract right now, and even after close, they're so surprised that they got the house for the price they paid for. Don't be afraid to throw in an offer, but like I said, follow the reductions. Have an agent who reaches out to the listing agent to make sure to strategize and to figure out pain points and everything too.
Yeah.
Know the comps, know the areas, but for the most part, don't be afraid to throw in an offer. Don't be one of those people that a month from now said, I saw a house, I should have jumped on it, and I didn't.
Yeah.
but be smart about it. Get educated on this market before you do that kind of thing. So for me, my thing would be, don't be too scared to throw in an offer. Don't follow the reductions and go low. There, that's it.
Hello, there you have it. All right, guys, if you want to reach out to Mark, check out Sacramento Real Estate, Mark McDonough. Check out his YouTube channel. Make sure to give him a like and a thumbs up. And also, if you guys have enjoyed this show, feel free to share it with someone who needs to hear it or who would benefit from it. And of course, smash that like button or subscribe where you can stay up to date with all the Sacramento real estate content. Guys, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at 5:30. Boom.